Let's get salty!
Hey everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video, and we are just about a week removed from one of the larger balance patches we have ever seen in Hearthstone, where nearly like 20 cards were nerfed, some outright gutted, all from existing top tier strategies in the game. And it's kind of illustrated just a harsh reality we're gonna have to deal with in Hearthstone for the next few months, where yes, the meta has shaken up, yes, things have changed, but it's a lot of the same old, just of a different flavor. So we're gonna go over it, why I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. It's just, again, what we're dealing with right now. And of course, if you enjoy the content on the channel, feel like I've earned your subscription, please hit that sub button down below, give the video a like, as it helps the channel out a lot. So pretty much every top tier deck, and even like decks that are like, we're kind of below the top tier, were nerfed in the latest balance patch. And actually, before we get into that, I just want to remind you guys, let you know that the whole like free packs or the compensation packs for the last season's end rewards, where we got the ROM packs, they've gone live. So if you haven't got them, make sure to log in, check it out. I got 5 packs, so I've got reports that everybody else has been getting them. That has finally gone live. Anyways, yes, pretty much everything got nerfed. And if we take a look at the meta, at least on front page, we'll note that it's actually shifted, right? We had seen Warlock being dominant near the top, Death Knight, and now it's Shaman and Demon Hunter and Warrior and Hunter in the green, with everyone else a little bit below, and like Warlock in the dumps. Warlock, probably the least playable class now, going from the best to worst. If you ain't first, you're last. That also could have been the title of yesterday's video about going first, right? But yeah, that's across the front page. If we look at the meta itself, at least at legend ranks, we see only one tier 1 deck apparently. The Hagatha Shaman is like tier S, or has it like top 1000 legend. It's spelled Shaman, and we got Discover Hunter. So Shaman doing really well in the meta, and that wasn't even close to being like the best deck, right? Last expansion. So the meta is like changed up, right? There's no Fire Act decks. The Quest deck, Quest Warlock, Quest Paladin are pretty much gone. You can argue the meta might be even a little less diverse, but at legend, it's pretty decent right now. There's a decent amount of options. The main thing is it's quite different compared to the last meta, but the harsh reality of it, right? Look at the decks for the most part. You look at them, it's mostly stuff that's been good before, like over the last year, where it's like mid-range Shaman is basically the Nebula Shaman that was good, not, you know, was good like last year almost, with Hagatha and all that stuff. There's some new stuff in there, right? A lot of these decks basically have been good already, but they got a few new cards or not much else in there, like Aggro Demon Hunter. I don't think has like anything new outside of the big serpent guy, right, that you can cheat out. Dragon Warrior is, you know, it's got some new stuff that's like the Logosh Warrior. So again, that one's pretty darn new. That deck never really took off at any point. So that's really been one of the shining lights of this expansion release. But like Leech DK, Discover Hunter, Protoss Priest, Face Hunter, Peddler DH, Death Rattle DK does have the new Fabled card, but outside of that, it's kind of just the old Heron deck, which was never top tier. It's moved up, so a lot of the meta is fresh. That's what I like about it. Like right now, it at least is different, but the harsh reality of it is different, but also kind of the same. And HS Guru also kind of reflects it, right? Like they have the best deck, Diamond through Legend, as Hagatha Shaman, Dragon Warrior, one of the only kind of newer decks out there really thriving. And then you have a ton of decks that we have seen do really well at some point, whether it was like the last meta or like a couple metas removed, with either a couple new pieces or no new pieces at all. And this was pretty much exemplified. It was very short time for these guys to prepare, but for the last tour or the last chance qualifier, which my prediction on when we did our casting, me and Theo, I predicted Chiansu would win the whole thing, which he did, and his lineup consisted of Control DK with no new cards, Discover Hunter with 1 new card, Drunk Paladin, no new cards, Cycle Rogue, I believe, no new cards. So he had like just a couple of new cards in his entire lineup. But on the flip side of that, his opponent was playing like Arcane Mage, got all the way to top 2 with a brand new archetype, and you know, the Hagatha Shaman with a bit of a different flavor. So you can see that like the newer stuff stuff just isn't, you know, really breaking into the meta. There are new cards. There are definitely new cards and a bit more of a different flavor to a lot of these decks. Discover Hunter in particular, Sylvanas, really changes the complexion of that deck. There's basically a whole different win condition almost with it, right? Which is really nice. And again, like Heron DK, which was not brought, I don't believe, or at least it get to top 8, but like Heron DK has the whole Bonsomdi thing going on, right? With Talanji, making that whole archetype different. A lot of people brought Quest Warrior, which again, not the newest deck, but it's actually one of the newer things, right? Last expansion. But they also brought like a new bunch of the new cards, like Draconics was the last mini set, the 1-mana gain 10 armor, it's Unleash the something, and then like for Glory, and there's some new stuff thrown in there. So we are in a meta, to me, that feels fresh, a little bit different, but I feel like it's going to get really old really fast, considering a lot of these decks a lot of people are already sick of from prior metas. And it's kind of the harsh reality of it that we saw nearly 20 cards nerfed, some gutted, and we are in a meta where, yeah, it's very quite similar to ones we've seen before, just with a bit of a different spin to it. But I think, honestly, that is the best thing they could have tried to accomplish right now. Because if you look at like a lot of the top cards right now in the game, excluding the best one in Elise, but you have like Ziliax, you have Bob, you have Birdwatching, Paired Sanctuary, Ceaseless Expanse, Grifta, Grofin, like so many of the top cards, right? The most popular cards in the game. You scroll through, almost all of them are rotating, almost all of them. And yeah, they could nerf probably every card that's good, that's gonna rotate, but that'd probably be like 20 to 40, whereas I feel like this patch did a good job of at least giving some breathing space to the new stuff, even if it's not taking off to a large degree. And again, if you look, the bottom decks this expansion aren't nearly as bad as the bottom decks of the last expansion. Last set, Goro, we were seeing like 20-30% like crazy, whereas yeah, there's a couple of stinker, like people are still trying to play the safety warrior, which is the testing dummy warrior. It doesn't work anymore. Yeah, you're not gonna win. It went down to 28%, but the majority of the decks are like 40% or higher, whereas you compare that to, yeah, Goro, it was way worse. So you feel like you could kind of play the newer stuff a little bit more, and at the end of the day, it's really going to be the reality. Again, I keep saying that the reality of the situation is these 3 sets are the ones that really dictate everything in the game. They are at such a higher power level than, you know, what we have in the game right now. They just are. It basically happened that these were so strong, these were so powerful, at least these first 2, because they had to compete with expansions like Showdown in the Badlands. They had to compete with like Titans. Then these sets had to compete with like Nathria in Sunken City. It just kept compounding, right? It started in Stormwind. They had to outdo Stormwind because it was a disaster for them. They had to outdo it with the next sets. Then they had to outdo it with the next sets. At some point, when you keep trying to outdo it and making it more strong, the game gets more and more out of control in terms of, at least, you know, that the word some people don't like to hear, agency, where we saw with Whizbangs, we saw with Perils in Paradise, we were getting OTK'd or blown out turns 4 and 5 like every game, that they had to dial it back, in my opinion. And that's what this year has been all about, dialing back this constant escalation we saw, and they've stuck to it, right? They have stuck to that vision that they started back in the Great Dark Beyond of lowering the power level in the game, not having every single expansion escalate to the point where we're all blowing up by turns 4 and 5. But yeah, these last 3 sets have not landed like we traditionally have seen, but their play patterns, for the most part, are much more traditional, much more board-based, for the odd exception like the Low and the Krona and some of those type of like scam cards. They are a lot far and fewer than before, right? There's a lot less of those than we've seen. That, yes, we are, I feel like, just kind of waiting for rotation, right? We've got a bit of a spice up. I mean, the game is, to me, a little bit more fresh. I'm enjoying ladder a little bit more than I have, but I feel like this is almost the best they can do with the situation that has been years in the making, outside of just, yeah, having rotation early or something, or nuke literally everything, which I don't think is a feasible option. I don't think that's smart. That's what rotation's supposed to be for. And yes, outside of the mini set that we should be expecting in January and probably a couple of balance patches, one before, probably one after. We're probably looking at, a lot of older decks with a few new cards thrown in. Maybe a new deck pops up every once in a while, like a Logosh Warrior. But at the end of the day, it's basically a bit of a different meta with a bit of a spice of newer cards thrown in, or decks that just haven't been top tier in a while. And that's kind of what we are seeing right now. And again, considering the way they're trying to de-escalate power and get all that stuff going, I think that's the best possible solution that they could come up with, other than, not letting things get out of control. But we've never seen anything like this before, and it's really been interesting to see how it's been going. There's been a lot of failure with how it's been going, but I feel like this latest patch, to me, still is a thumbs up. I wish more new stuff was playable in terms of archetypes, but at the end of the day, it's going to be one hell of a rotation. I could say that at least, right? It should be pretty darn insane. We just have to wait there, but hopefully this current meta is enough to satisfy people like you and me, and for like a week so far, kind of is. We'll see how like 3.5 more months works. Anyways, let me know what you're feeling about everything in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day and stay salty, my friends.